entering into that first corner. And as we said, blind off camber, upwards of 90 miles an hour on that entry. Dean Crozier, a man in contention for the championship. Dean looking very confident as well out on track. And Trevor McInerney, you can see these guys just getting themselves prepared. Very tricky conditions in terms of battling the heat. A lot of the guys saying the tyres burning up very quickly as well and not lasting very long. A big wave from Neil Dunn, who's looking happy as always. Of course, Neil pushing very hard yesterday. We saw him in the gravel traps. But it looks as though we are almost ready to go for qualifying at round 3 of the Irish Drift Championship. It's going to be a big one, 20 grand up for grabs, and a brand new track layout means this one is going to be intense. Hope you enjoyed. So that was a little bit of morning practice that these guys undertook, and we are almost ready to go. But of course, qualifying and drifting is a judge sport, and these guys are going to have 2 qualifying runs. And in order for you guys to understand what is about to happen on track, we need to go over to our judges. 3 judges today: Dan Moorhead, Kieran Hines, and our lead judge who's going to explain everything to us, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin, talk us through what is going to what these drivers need to do to score that perfect 100 in qualifying this morning.
Thanks, Eddie. So starting off from the start line, we want the drivers to accelerate as hard as they possibly can up to the initiation point that you saw in the video there. Drivers have to be sideways by the last initiation cone. We want the drivers to slide the rear of the car through clipping point 1. Then we want them to tighten the line in through the nose of the car through clipping point 2. Then probably the most important clipping point on this track, we want the drivers to slide the rear of the car through clipping zone 3. A nice smooth initiation onto outer zone 4. We want the drivers then to maintain a nice wide outside line all the way onto clipping point 5. From clipping point 5, we want a nice smooth transition, no big angle flicks back onto clipping point 6. Then down in front of us here, slide the rear of the car onto the wall at clipping point 7, maintaining that nice wide outside line to 8 and 9. Then a nice smooth transition back onto the wall in front of us here at clipping point 10. This is where the new stuff really gets tricky then. We want drivers to a nice smooth transition back onto clipping point 11, not getting caught up here. Back onto outer zone 12, and then the front of the car through clipping zone 13 over the finish line.
Thank you, Kevin. So there you have it from the judges. That's what they're looking for. But we're going to go to a quick virtual of the track, Peden, so that you guys at home can see exactly what is expected for that perfect 101. And we're going to get you to talk us through, Peden, because of course you have driven this track, and who better than to talk us through than a pro driver?
Well, hopefully so, right? Let's do it. So accelerate off the line, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, initiate clip point 1. Inside clipping point 2, outside to that critical clip point 3, back out again to clip point 4 as you enter into link ECU corner, all the way around. Hit that outer clipping point before you transition back in again to the track. This is a critical transition point before into the wall for the roundabout. Nice outside line, a little bit too deep there from Alan Hines as he does a virtual sim. Back out again for clip point 10 out to the wall. Quick flick to the inside clip here before you go back into link ECU corner. Nice outside line, and then you cut in towards the finish line here and hitting that all-important final inside clip.
So there you have it, the virtual representation of the track, and it looks as though we are almost ready to go. Pro-Am competition kicking off round 3. We're going to get a quick look at the judging criteria, though, for those of you at home. So each driver will compete 2 non-consecutive scored runs. The highest score after both runs will count as the driver's final score. Each run is scored out of a maximum of 100 by our 3 judges. The average score from all 3 judges will count as a driver's run score. Drivers will be deducted points for momentary loss of drift, understeer, incorrect line, dropping 1 to 3 wheels off of the designated circuit, and significant contact. Drivers will be rewarded for extreme entry, increased speed, fluidity, snappy transitions, correct judging line, precision, proximity to the outer clipping zones. Drivers will score a 0 for complete loss of drift, spinning out, dropping 4 wheels off of the circuit, extreme understeer, and driving a section of the course. So there you have it. That's the criteria, which means we are just about ready to go. Our drivers are lined up, Peden. Round 3, it's moving day essentially here at IDC, and you know, a lot of guys just inside that top 10 who have a chance at a championship. Today is the day to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, Eddie. And look, I mean, the grid has never looked as hot as it does right now. I watched practice this morning with the Pro-Am drivers, and look, there are so many people getting it right. It's a very technical course here, Eddie, as well. This inside piece is new to us. We've never done this kind of layout before, and so it is very tricky. You must be on the correct line with the correct speed and the correct kind of judgment in terms of your pace. What's throwing it in the air this weekend is the temperature, the sheer heat coming from the track.
Well, it looks as though we are ready to go on the start line for our first qualifier. And of course, Peden, as always, we will be running these qualifying runs in reverse championship order. So starting with the guys lower down and finishing with the guys leading the championship. And on the line is John O'Hare, the car sales rep from County Mayo. He's representing Westlake, Quinn Motorsport, Elite Autos, Driving Style and ECU Master. It's a brand new car for 2018. RB25 underneath the bonnet with 600 brake horsepower. And he fires through that first corner, Peden.
Absolutely great initiation by John O'Hare here. Watch for this outside line. This is what we want to see, and the judges will want to see this outside line. So going deep into that final clipping point, transition back here and now in towards the wall. What's really important here is getting close to the wall, but going deep. We want to see the drivers out by that outside white line, and John just not getting there.
And of course, a former judge yourself, Peden, so you will have a very good idea as to what it is the judge is looking for. You can see Jono doing a nice job getting the car around the circuit, maybe not as deep into some of those outer zones as he would have liked to do, but a score on the board. And we always say in qualifying, it's very good in your first run just to go out, settle the nerves, especially with being the first driver out on course, and just put in a score which can, I suppose, almost get you in the game. And so we're just waiting on the scores to come in. As we mentioned, we're running in reverse championship order as always, and Jono, the first driver out on track.
Absolutely, Eddie. So the first run here is always really important for us. Yeah, as you said before, I judged for, well, in fact, for many, many years. And so I'm very critical. In fact, I'm a little bit overcritical sometimes when I watch these runs, especially through practice sessions. Hence why I actually go and watch a lot of the practice sessions. In fact, I skipped one of the pro practice sessions yesterday just to go and watch my competitors to see where they are and where they're linking up on the track and where they're making it work, to kind of judge my own line after that. But the first run here is important. Whenever the judges set this precedence of whatever score John O'Hare gets from this run, this is a baseline score. So when we refer back to kind of any run we see from here on out, and the way that they'll be thinking right now is, okay, so what did John do there, and what score did he get as a result of that? So really critical run. It can be very good going out first, and can be very bad going out first, but in this case here, John had no choice really, Eddie, right?
Yeah, of course. And so it looks as though we do have a score coming through, and a score, a 60.3. So a 60.3 for John O'Hare on his first run. Not a bad start to qualifying, and that one certainly should be. Well, he's only the first driver, so we've no idea where that's going to land him at the end of qualifying. We got to move it on, though. Our next driver on the line is Phil Duffy. He's a carpenter from County Tyrone, representing LDC Electrics this weekend. He's a 90% record of breaking the car.
At least it's not 100%, Eddie. At
least it's not 100%. So can he make that 10% work this weekend? 2JZ under the bonnet, 600 brake horsepower as he fires through that first corner. You can see those white markers on the line through the first corner. Oh, and an off for Phil Duffy.
Yeah, a very, very tentative entry there. It almost looked as if a little bit of nerves came on. I mean, I've watched him throughout practice, and he was entering a lot more aggressively earlier on. So very tentative there. As you said, Eddie, and very good point, in fact. Sometimes you do come up with very good facts, right? That was one of them. So they have two runs. What's critical from run one is absolutely to get... And actually, as we see the car drive off the track, I realize there's a tyre off the rim here.
Yeah, and I wonder, was that before he had the off, or was it as a result of hitting into that gravel trap?
So either way, on
just
the
confirmation
outside,
that a 0 on the board for Phil Duffy.
As the drivers enter, on the very outside of the track, there's ripple strips or rumble strips from the track. As we go in reverse here, if you hit that rumble strip with your tyre, you can debead.
So moving back to the start line, and on the line is the stuntman Tom Murphy in his 2.2 600 brake horsepower GT86 fronted S14.
This is an absolute animal of a machine, and Tom is a fantastic driver. Well, look at this almost backwards entry as he goes in. Oh, and overcommits, Eddie.
Yeah, I think, Tom, one of these drivers that only knows how to go full whack. He never knows how to put in a safe run. He always wants to come out on track and wow the crowd. Fortunately, not working out for him this time. When he does pull it together, though, a very strong competitor. Didn't have the perfect round at Dunleary, so would be coming here to this third round with a hope of getting himself back in the mix, and a strong finish here this weekend could see him jump up the order quite significantly, but as we say, not the run that Tom Murphy was looking for as he heads back to the paddock, a wave and hand out the window. And I spoke to him earlier on, he's saying really battling the heat, find it very difficult in these high temperatures. And of course in Ireland, Peden, you know, maybe in other places in Europe 28 degrees mightn't seem like a whole lot, but in Ireland it's just a little bit too much for some of these guys.
No, it is, and it's not just the car suffering, it is the drivers inside the cars wearing you know, 3-layer suits, undergarments, fireproof undergarments, helmets, gloves, big boots. You know, there's a lot of temperature in that car. So that can take on your concentration.
So we'll take a look at the score from Tom Murphy, and a 24 on the board for Tom. So definitely improvement needed on the second run when he comes out for his second half of qualifying. We got to move it on though to our next driver, who will be Kevin Kilgariff. Kevin Kilgariff, a man who has a very interesting role outside of drifting. He is a developer for self-driving car systems. Monday to Friday, so this guy is working on the future of the automotive industry, and his car very silent out on track. Almost couldn't hear it coming down the straight.
Yeah, good solid initiation by Kevin here. Nice outer line. Can he hold it here as he go?
Ooh, yeah.
Car shuts down his puppet. Car was giving trouble in practice earlier on, Eddie, as well, so maybe he's suffering from some mechanical difficulties.
Yeah, but he's got it back online here now. I wonder, will the judges deem that to have been a loss of drift worthy of a 0, or will it be a run score? The rest of this run hooking up quite nicely for him.
Absolutely. Really nice inside clipping point there as he goes out wide. The last corner here is a tricky one, Eddie, because you can kind of decide to go a little bit different in there if you want to, and go a little bit extreme in terms of angle as well. So interesting run. You are right though. Is that it's gonna certainly give him a major penalization, I would assume.
Yeah, Kieran Hines saying how important it is, the line that you take from the exit of the teardrop or roundabout section of the circuit, and that would result, or you know, impact how the driver's line will be towards the final sections and into that 13th clipping zone. A 27 though coming through from the judges for Kevin Kilgariff, so another driver early on with work to do.
Absolutely, Eddie, and you could certainly see that that was as a result of that straighten.
Now we got to move it on to your teammate, and a man looking to put in a big performance here, Tomas Falvey, in the Drift Games Mobile 1 S14 or B25 underneath the bonnet. 550 brake horsepower, and of course this car being borrowed or lent out to Conor Shannon tomorrow, Pete.
Absolutely, and Tomas Falvey is on a mission here, so you see him nailing clipping point 3. Nice wide outer line out to that exit of Link ECU corner. Nice solid line, a lot of power in this machine.
I was present earlier on while Tomas was taking some instruction from Conor Shannon, who was telling him how to drive the car, and it was an instantaneous difference that it made. As soon as Tomas went back out on track, he just fired through the circuit and hooking up really nicely as he crossed the line. Of course, the graphics in this car provided by Seamus from Moose Design, and a lot of the drivers on the grid sporting designs and wraps from Seamus, who does a fantastic job. Now we wait the scores from Tomas Falvey, but that certainly looked like a very good run.
Absolutely, a lot of grip in that vehicle and a lot of aggression in that
and
vehicle.
There you go, onto your screens if you're watching at home. A 72.7 for Tomas Falvey. Big run there, setting the bar nice and high early on in qualifying, and a target for some of our higher championship order drivers to compete with. Now Ross Kenny is on the line all the way from County Clare, the garage manager. He's representing MDTs, Asino Tyres, Turbos Direct, H.E. O'Neill, Carrick Tools, Banner Quick Fit, and this is an SR20 powered 450 brake horsepower S14. So rocking the SR20 a little bit like yourself, Pete.
Absolutely. Ross enters nice and sharp on that qualifying line the judges want to see. Coming up short here.
Yeah, missing that third clipping zone quite significantly now. Can he keep it wide? Kieran Hines saying a lot of deduction will be rewarded to drivers who don't get it out to that outer zone. As he switches it back, throws it onto the wall. Big angle, but can he keep it going? Unfortunately not. Wheels off the track. Yeah, very close to a spin. And a heavy deduction, you'd imagine, from our judges for Ross Kenny for that error.
You can just hear it sounds as if he's wanting for another gear. Perhaps he's broken something during practice, or the car isn't up to scratch, but he's certainly wanting for more power there. Decent run, but a lot of big mistakes there, Eddie, so I would assume we're going to see a lot of penalization here. Deduction in qualifying on your first run is not what you want to see. You want to see a good solid score. Exactly,
yeah. As we say, you know, not a lot of these tracks will take maybe 30 to 35 seconds, so it's not a whole lot of time that you have to try and get yourself in the game. Not like Formula 1 where you can make a mess on the first corner and you have 70 odd laps to get back into it. So a score comes in though for Ross Kenny, 32. He will score on his first run, and definitely a driver with room to improve there. So we got to move it on. Our next driver on the line is Tommy O'Neill, the welding fabricator representing Doreen Tyres and Turbo Ireland. He's been drifting for 10 years. 300 brake horsepower under the bonnet of this 1JZ. It's a fully forged 350Z box, Wisefab, link engine management, and he is ready to take to the track for his first run. You can just see how perfect the conditions are in Mondello Park. Not often we get sunshine like this, Peyton.
It's so rare, Eddie. It is so rare. Sporting a couple of battle scars here as well, obviously from practice, I would assume, right? So
yeah, well, of course, practice is the time to try things out, push yourself that little bit more, see where your limits lie. And Tommy O'Neill nailing the circuit so far, Peyton. This is looking like a really good quality run. Can he stay high on the bank? He certainly can. And Tommy O'Neill laying it down, sends up the smoke signal as he switches now onto the wall through this tight technical section. This is where it gets really tricky. And if you're watching from just behind the wall, it almost looks as though these guys are about to lose it every time, Pete.
Absolutely. Nice wide line there in the roundabout. Doing a great job here is Tommy. Nice tight exit here as well, hitting that inside clipping point. It's not a huge clipping point in terms of scoring, but it is important for the judges to see you on that correct line.
Could we see Tommy O'Neill take down that score of 72 from Tomas Falvey? Could he go top? Could he beat you, outdo your teammate? We are about to find out as we await word from the judges as to how they've scored it, discussing this one. And a nice breeze, of course, today, which is very helpful. A 67, so just not managing to top qualifying for Tommy O'Neill, but certainly a very good run. Jumps him into second position, and he'll be feeling confident going back to the start line after that one. Shane Mackin, our next driver on the line. Shane Mackin is a mechanic at Tower Mines. He's representing TireHanger.ie, THComponents.ie, and Chaos 13. SR20 underneath the bonnet, 350 brake horsepower, and of course a former podium finisher. Can Shane Mackin pull something out of the bag today? Nice entry as he just hugs that dotted line through the first section, but just not pushing it far enough out into that outer zone to get out to third clipping zone. Again, a little bit of a correction there as he comes around by Linky's to your corner, Pete.
Absolutely, yeah. He's coming offline a little bit, which is going to hurt him now for this latter part of the track. You really want to be on that line throughout the entire course. When the judges look to lay out this track, it's a one single flowing line. If you deviate off that, you have to make massive corrections to get back on line again.
And of course, if you do follow that line, it almost makes it, I won't say easy, but certainly makes it life easier for the drivers. And absolutely a few corrections from Shane Mackin. Not the perfect run by any means from him as he goes back to the pits, but certainly a scored run. Where will he land after his first attempt at this tricky and new Mondello layout? A 50.3. So, again, a score on the board for Shane Mackin, which is where you want to be after your first run. Relieve some of that pressure. Now, next on the line is Harry Kerr.
Harry was going great in practice earlier on, really doing a lot with a car that doesn't have a major amount of power already.
Yeah, and just a mere 14 years of age, a student from County Antrim. He's representing AK Drift Repairs, Kerr Recovery and Repairs, Leany Car Dismantlers, Parts Doc, Top Dog, DD Autos, Dent Tech and IMF. This is an E46 M3 powered E36.
And
E46 rather.
E46, correct. And a beautiful line so far. Sticking to that outside clip. I really watched him closely in practice earlier on, and he was doing a great job. Coming out all the way out to that outer line. Let's see how he does in the teardrop here. Lovely, consistent line. Could get a little bit further out, but the line is consistent, Eddie, and that's exactly what the judges want to see.
Yeah, and very consistent. Blips up the throttle as he just steadies himself now into this final circuit. And you know what? The standard is very high earlier on here. Perfect through that final section for Harry Kerr. As he crosses the line, the car was fully built by themselves here at AK Drift Repairs, and doing a really, really good job as he completes that circuit. Now, where's he going to land as the judges' scores come through? Harry Kerr, a score of 72 to beat. And you can just see, if you're watching on our live stream, a nice breeze blowing, which means for battles, if there is a look at this though, a score dropping in 74.3 for Harry Kerr, topping qualifying, 14 years of age, and laying down a phenomenal run, Pete.
Absolutely, you can see it's not about speed always. It's about that technical line, and that's exactly what the judges want to see. So far, that's exactly the perfect demonstration of what you should be doing. You know, sometimes again, your banker on that first run. You know, lay down a solid line, make sure that you get those points on the board so that you can kind of, you know, relax first of all for your second run and, you know, or go crazy for your second run.
So there you go. We got it. Martin Green now on the line, the welder from Portlaoise. She's representing Turbo Ireland, Durham Tyres, Central Hygiene, Prince Central, RP Service and Repair. And he just started his own business, Welding Solutions IRL. So check him out for any welding jobs that you may have. But look at this. Oh, nice through that first corner. A little bit of a battle with the steering. And throws it now. Can he? Oh, just starting to miss a few clips here, Pete.
Yeah, a little, as you say, a little bit of battle with the steering wheel. He is off a little bit on that first corner. That's throwing him off that critical line. He's getting back onto it now, though, Eddie. Nice and wide here. Oh, as he kind of messes up. Did he miss a gear, perhaps, briefly? But he's back online again, Eddie, and he's coming out towards the exit of the track now.
And that section of the circuit, clip 1 through 3, is probably the area where the most points are gained and lost for these drivers, Pete.
Critically, to your point, lost, right? So if you're not on that outside line on clip 3, which is as you power through that first right-hander, the exit of that corner is everything.
And it's a real commitment game, because a lot of the drivers that you see, the score dropping in there for Martin Green, a 58 for him on his first run. But as we were saying, if you're not carrying enough speed and if you don't commit fully to that first section of the circuit, which can be quite difficult, of course, blind and off camber as you come through that section, you won't have the pace to carry you out to that third zone.
Absolutely correct. Equally, if you overcommit going in and you scrub too much speed, you make the same exact mistake, right? So there is one line, there is one speed, no pressure, right?
No, not at all. You just got to be perfect. That's all you got to do.
That's it.
So we moved along to Keith O'Shea, who is on the line. And you can see him engine cover off just to try and keep this car as cool as possible as he slams through the gears and fires it through the first corner. Nice run, but again, just not getting out to that outer third zone. But Keith gets that car back online now, sends it nice and wide through Link Engine Management corner.
Absolutely. As he comes through here now into that teardrop here, that roundabout is proving to be very difficult. But that was a perfect line by Keith O'Shea as he goes through here, coming off a little bit towards the exit. Coming nice and wide to clip 10. That inside line is very critical for setting yourself up for here, this exit line.
You know what? With the exception of missing that third zone, I think Keith O'Shea could have had a really, really good run there.
Absolutely, and you see overcommitting going into that first corner, dipping a little wheel over on that clipping point 2 on the inside. We kind of, just took him off that line to clip point 3.
So where will Keith O'Shea land when the scores come in? A 60.3 for him, and a nice start to qualifying. If he can improve that line through the first section, I think he could be certainly a contender later on this afternoon. Now, next driver on the line, a gentleman in Irish drifting, Robin Neeson from Ballymena in County Antrim. He's a refrigeration engineer, and this 2JZ powered 850 brake horsepower monster.
And can we just talk about how good that car looks as well?
Oh, I mean, look, it's sporting a fresh graphic scheme. He said he sorted out a steering issue with this car, and he feels like now he knows how to drive it properly. And look at this, fires it through the first corner. Having a few sleepless nights. A new addition to the family not long after round 2 in Dunleary. But that's not affecting him here this weekend. A really big run here from Robin Neeson. And of course, that chaser, very difficult to negotiate around this tight technical circuit, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, what's difficult about the car is that...
Shuts it down a little bit, but gets it back. Was there an issue there? Maybe a problem with the gear change?
Perhaps, yeah. A lot of drivers are shifting down a gear as they come to that last clipping point, just to kind of make sure the car in the front end tucks in. It's a big vehicle, Eddie, right? I mean, it's a big, heavy car, and you can see that. It's one of the only vehicles that you can be touching the outside clipping point and the inside clipping point at the same time, right?
Yeah, which is an added bonus.
It's a bonus, right? Yeah.
So the score drops in a 65 for Robin Neeson, 65 from him, and certainly room to improve, but it looked like he was on a very solid line. But as we say, that little error towards the end may be hampering his score quite a bit. Now, next driver on the line will be Damien Short. Damien Short, the aircraft engineer.
And former pro driver, in fact, going back a couple of years, Eddie, as well.
Yeah, took a break in 2017 to build this new car, and certainly looking confident out there. 2JZ 850 brake horsepower. Or sorry, it's SR20 with 400 brake horsepower.
Don't get that wrong, Eddie. That's critical.
It's completely different.
Nice, and as he shuts the car down.
Yeah, I wonder is he having some problems, just not looking comfortable there at the moment, Damien Short. And,
yeah, he shuts it down, Eddie.
Completely just backs out of this. And
now, as he shuts it down, what's critical for people to know, and I know as well as you do, is that, despite the fact that we watch a lot of cars driving, we have zero mechanical knowledge, right? I mean, let's be honest, right?
Absolutely.
So something went wrong. We're not quite sure what.
Yes.
Yeah.
hopefully we might hear from a marshal or somebody more educated on the subject matter. But for the moment, all we can tell you is Damien Short looks to be suffering some mechanical problems. So a 0 on the board, confirmation there from Damien Short, and hopefully he can get that car sorted and back out for his second run of qualifying. We move it on, though, to our next driver who is on the line, Kenny Mulligan. Kenny Mulligan's representing Tyre Tech, Glen Bay Group, Driving Style and Elite Autos. This is an RB25 with 400 brake horsepower. It's running Link ECU, Borg Warner Turbo and Weisfab. And as he slams through the gears, coming down the straight now, what can he do on his first run of qualifying as Kenny Mulligan fires it through a little bit wide, though. As you can see, just not keeping that driver's side front wheel inside those tree marked lines on the track that the judges painted, and just not getting wide enough, Pete.
Absolutely, and in fact what you'll see there is that it's again overcommitting on that first run, on that first corner. Now let's get back to that in a moment. Overcommitting here again, coming into that roundabout, over-rotating the car. That sends him to the inside of the track, and now he's going to have a difficult chance, or difficult line, to get back on this perfect scoring run. So again, back to that start, that's where it all went wrong for Kenny, right? Initiating a little bit too late, perhaps running a little bit too wide, and that sent him on the wrong trajectory for that third clipping point, Eddie. As soon as you come off that clipping point incorrectly, as you see here by the score of a 50.3, Eddie.
Yeah, so 50.3 for Kenny Mulligan, and certainly work to do, but 8 positions so far, so in the mix. But as we say, running reverse championship order, we move it on to Paul Kennedy, the project manager from Longford. Paul, of course, no stranger to big performances here in Mondello Park, and could this be a weekend where we see a return to the podium for Paul Kennedy?
And Paul has never missed a round in 5 years.
Yeah, Z-Tex Tyres on board with him this weekend.
And a big flick going in, Eddie, here as well. Nice and deep into clipping point 3 here as he enters into Leak ECU corner.
Yeah, full commitment, but then just getting the transition wrong and not able to get that car right out to the outer section. Judge Kieran Hines saying that he wants the car to be about a foot away from that very outer line. Anything more than that, and you are going to start being deducted some points. But you know what? A good tidy run here from Paul Kennedy, keeping it flowing.
Absolutely critical. So yeah, he's doing a really good job here. One critical point that he's doing, which I know the judges want, is as you exit the roundabout, coming up to that wall clip, which is clip point 10, the judges want to see you coming up and going through that as opposed to just hitting it there. And he did a really good job there, did Paul.
So score dropping in for Paul Kennedy, a 69.7 for him, and certainly a good start, and judges rewarding that good line that he took throughout the circuit. We move back to our start line, which will see our next driver, Ryan Morton, ready to take to the circuit. And Ryan Morton sporting, as we mentioned earlier, a brand new graphic scheme on this car. I think this car looks so badass as it gets ready to go to war out on circuit as he goes through our chicane system, which of course, that chicane system in place to slow down the lead driver for battles. Obviously the lead driver going through that chicane in the battle, we want them doing the exact same thing here in qualifying. And a nice line here from Ryan Morton as he tears up this Mondello circuit so far. Look at this. No, little correction as he comes out to the roundabout. What happened there? Shuts it down, Pete.
Yeah, again, having some sort of an issue. He initiates at the right time, but comes up very short going into that teardrop roundabout. Comes back on again, and whatever little issue he had, he's obviously worked it out. But yeah, it sounded like something went wrong there.
Yeah, it sounded like a possible misfire or something up with that car. Hopefully nothing too serious. Certainly didn't appear to be driver error, as Ryan was on a really strong
humdinger, Eddie.
A humdinger
of a run. Yeah.
So a 48, the score for Ryan Morton, and he'll head back to the pits, knowing himself, Peden, that work to be done in order to improve that score. But up until that point, it was looking very strong. Now, next driver making a return to the Irish Drift Championship, Shay Rogers in this awesome
animal of a car.
2JZ Supra. First time he ever drifted was in a 1,000 brake horsepower Toyota Supra, as he fires it into that first corner. Perfect line through that first section. Can he keep it going nice and wide? He certainly can. And a driver to watch this weekend, because a real talent behind the wheel, Peden, and practice this morning, Shay Rogers was looking very comfortable out there, and he's replicating it here in qualifying when it matters.
Look at it. Oh, as he just comes off that line. I wonder did he tap the wall a small bit. Absolutely perfect up until that point, Eddie. A little correction going through the roundabout. He will be penalised a small bit for that, but the rest of the run so far is going fantastic. I was speaking to him just before qualifying, and he was saying this is the first event so far that he's had the car where he hasn't been working on the car or had to fix something. So, you know, confidence is high here. Great run. Just a shame about that correction, Eddie.
Yeah, if you follow Shay on Instagram, you'll see that he is pretty much 100% of his time is spent underneath that car, trying to just make it perfect for the events here, and he is back, and it looks as though, you know, he is going to be in contention. Jumps into first position with a 75.3 on the board for Shay Rogers. That's a man that's going to be delighted with that score after all the hardship he's had.
Great job.
So we move it along to our next driver in a borrowed car here this weekend. Paulius Judicious blew an engine yesterday, and he's borrowed a car from John Joyce for this weekend. It's an M5 powered V8 underneath the bonnet of this R33 Skyline. And what could Paulius do in the borrowed car? He needs to get his head together. Struggling a little bit in practice and a little bit wide there, Pete, as he comes through clip 1 to 2.
Exactly, and you can see how that sends him up short for clip point 3, which is going to put him on the wrong line now. So he's going to be on the back foot now, trying to get it back on again. But Paulius is a fantastic driver. Great car that he's in as well, with a lot of torque and a lot of power. You see, he sticks it wide here. He's not afraid to hit a few walls with TH Components creating fiberglass panels. He's not afraid to hit a couple of walls here, but slightly offline here. Coming back on that line again now, Eddie.
You know what? It's a good finish to the run. Maybe just you know, a few areas in particular just on the run-in where he could improve his line, but certainly a scoreable run, and we're going to see where he ends up after his first qualifying run. And of course, he'll have his team in the grandstands watching on, who can just help him with areas on the circuit that he could be better. So he'll know what he needs to do coming out for his second half of qualifying. But a 55.3 on the board for Paulius Judicious, and certainly not a bad attempt considering a borrowed car. First time ever driving that car was this morning, and Paulius doing a good job getting around the circuit.
Absolutely, Eddie. As we move on to one of my all-time favorite drift cars, this is an absolute animal, driven by Francis O'Shea, self-employed from Clare. S15, 600 horsepower, 2JZ, as he enters hard and fast. Look at how deep he gets into clip point 3 here. Actually can be a little bit shy of it there, but does a good job in getting back on that outside line, Eddie. Now as he comes into this critical infield, the smoke is pluming off it.
You know what, this is a really, really good car, and Francis O'Shea well able to drive it. A long time since we've seen him on a podium. Could there be a change of fortune for him this weekend? This is looking like a really strong run for him, Pete, and as he comes through the final sections, was there a little bit of an error there just towards the end? Difficult to see from our point of view.
Exactly. Again, it's down to small tweaks, and you'll see as we get higher and higher to that championship leaderboard, we will see better and better runs. But a great run there, a lot of impact, a lot of speed, which makes it more difficult. So let's see what Francis O'Shea is going to receive for that run, Eddie.
Yeah, Francis, of course, aiming to complete his first full season in a number of years. He hasn't, you know, he's dipped in and out, but he's back this year, hoping to contend for the championship, and certainly looking good this morning. A 58 on the board for Francis O'Shea. So like we said, a few little errors there, but nothing major there, nothing that he can't sort out, and he'll come back for his second run knowing what he needs to do, and a good starting point. Got that first run laid down. Now on the line, Jack Shield, the electrician from County Waterford, representing Mad Racing. 270 brake horsepower under the bonnet, M3 3-litre engine, and of course you're no stranger to underpowered cars here, Pete. How much more difficult is it for a guy like Jack Shield coming out here on this fast circuit?
What makes it difficult is that he has one attempt at that correct line, and so far, as he overcommits going into Linky CU corner. And this is the difficulty, Eddie. I'm glad you raised that. So the difficulty is that you have, with these tires that we run on these cars, very grippy tires, especially with the heat and the track as well today, you have one attempt at getting the right line. If you get offline ever so slightly on initiation, you don't have the power to pull through and get you back on that correct line. In a sense, you have one shot. And as that confirmed with Jack Shield shutting it down, they're getting a 0, Eddie, and remaining in 18th and last position so far.
Yeah, and just to go back as well, Pete, into what we were saying, as we just see our next driver, Trevor McInerney, on the line. Before, on the old layout, if you did get that line right and you were in an underpowered car, the track then flowed quite well and you could maintain your momentum. Now with the teardrop section, where you're scrubbing a lot of your speed, how much more difficult is it to get that momentum back up again?
That part is still difficult. It's not as difficult as the entry, I would say, because now you know your car and you know what your car is capable of doing. Power is everything, though, right? The more power you have, the more flexibility you have in terms of making small mistakes and getting away with it. What you will not be able to do is hide a mistake with an underpowered car.
So, Trevor McInerney on the line, the mechanic from County Clare. Forged 2JZ engine underneath the bonnet of this car, 600 brake horsepower, so certainly not lacking in power, and Trevor McInerney has everything that he needs at his disposal. What can he do, though, as he makes his way out on track? He's representing DT Autos, McElliott's Castletown Motors.
And a great initiation here. Oh, as he just hits that inside, tucks that wheel on the first corner on the inside and kind of pulled him into the inside of the track. A little bit offline now, Eddie. Back on it again here now. A lot of angle here. Let's see, can he slow it down for that outside line? Nice and wide there. I know the judges would want him to be a lot wider, but again, it's all because of that previous line.
Yeah, and you know, going back to it, we talk about this first section of the course, but if you're a fan of Irish drifting and you've been following for the last number of years, you'll know just how many battles have been won and lost between clip 1 and clip 3. And if the lead car can't get through that section properly and competently, it makes it very difficult for the chase driver to have confidence following them in. As we say, blind, off camber, a lot of speed and a lot of commitment required, and if you're not taking a solid line through that section, the chase driver has nothing to follow.
Absolutely correct, Eddie.
So the score dropping in for Trevor McInerney rather, and a 54 on the board for him. So judges seen some worth in that one for him, but certainly room to improve as we move on to our next driver, which will be David Garvey. So David Garvey getting ready to take on this brand new layout in Mondello Park. Just see how nice is that view. Blue skies all around us here in Mondello. Perfect temperatures. We're all in t-shirts and shorts, which is unheard of, Peter.
It is lovely as David Garvey launches that Deltwood car into that first clipping point. Nice out and wide to clip point 3. Very shy there on that critical line. Again, he's going to send him on to a different trajectory here, which is going to make it more difficult.
Yeah, David representing Deltwood, Suffin Plant Tire, Mad Racing, BM Auto Works, Everything Drift and Billy Ryan Tires. Said to me earlier on he's liking this layout, likes this circuit. It's fast, it's flowy, big fast transitions, and it's the type of driving style that he enjoys. Struggled a little bit more on the likes of those tight technical circuits like Dunleary, but he's here to make a big impact this weekend. Maybe not the first run in qualifying he was looking for, but certainly he's going to put a score on the board. Maybe he just calm some of those early nerves, and he'll go back. The team will be on the radio telling him, you know, where he could have been a little bit wider, where he could have been a little bit better. So we're just awaiting the judges' score to drop in, just so that we know where he can improve.
Exactly, yeah. And another beautifully wrapped car by Moose Design there. But David Garvey, again, it goes back to this fact here as he scores a solid 55 for that first run, Eddie.
Yeah, 55 for David Garvey, and certainly room to improve. But Amanda said he's feeling comfortable out there, so we expect bigger things from him. Maybe just looking to get that early score in on the board as our next driver, Nigel Moody, gets ready to leave the line. The site engineer from Kildare, his local track. He's competing for 5 years. Another driver rocking the old school SR20, 400 brake horsepower under the bonnet.
Good man.
And Nigel Moody, well used to this Mondello circuit here, Peden.
He is, and so far he is on the perfect line, Eddie. Nice and wide, good speed, good impact. He could be a little bit wider there, but I'm being critical now, right? Nice and wide swing, dipping a wheel a little bit, but that won't be too bad, but it will send him short here, exactly as you see. Now he's going to be on the wrong line exiting, Eddie, so he's going to come up late to this one here, making the inside one difficult, but he is making it work.
You know what, Peden? He was good up until clip 4, and then he came off that. Yeah, as you say, he wasn't. We were, picking hairs here, but he wasn't on that perfect line, and that's what caused him to suffer through the remainder of the circuit. So, good start for Nigel Moody, but he's going to have to just improve that line through Link ECU corner, and that could see him really jump up the order on his second run if he can do so. Now, where will he land when the judges' scores drop in? We await to see them. A 62 on the board for Nigel Moody. So you see, still a good score. But certainly room for improvement there for Nigel, and certainly capable of pulling it out of the bag and putting in a big run as well.
Agreed. As we move on to Shane Reedy, and this is a beautiful SR20 powered, really important, close to my heart, S13 180SX.
I'm not sure if you were watching practice earlier on, but in his first run of practice this morning with Alan O'Neill, these two guys were millimeters away from totaling their cars through this first section of the corner. But Shane Reedy looking good so far, just getting those rear wheels into that third clipping zone, and again, you know what, Pete? He's getting the clipping zones, but he's just not got that wide line that the judges are looking to see.
Absolutely. It really looks as if he needs to carry more momentum through that course. You can see he's coming up short on nearly everything. He is, however, as you say, hitting those clipping points by and large, which is what he wants to do. If he's down on power, or if you aren't generally down on power, what the judges would want to see you do is at least attempt to follow that correct line, which is what he's doing. There's intent behind that run, Eddie.
You're just trying to build yourself up for tomorrow.
I just like his car.
Yeah, no, it's a cool car. It certainly is. And you know what, Shane Reedy, I'm thinking that one's going to be up there. A 66.3, enough for 6th position for the moment, Pete. Not a bad run.
Absolutely. You can see there justifying that score by sticking on that right line.
Now Dylan Garvey sits on the line. The IADC champion started drifting 2 years ago, and now he finds himself in the Pro-Am competition up against his brother. But you know what? Representing Dealt with it this weekend, Bailey Machinery Sales, Billy Ryan Tyres. He said to me that he's having a problem with his clutch pedal, particularly in the teardrop section, sticking to the floor. So be interested to see, has he managed to get that problem sorted? Looks as though he had a problem there, and I wonder on transition, could that have been what caused him just to have a little error coming into link engine management corner?
It could easily. That's typically a part where you downshift in some cars. So if he's obviously having issues with the clutch pedal, perhaps it's not coming back to him again. That could explain why. So far sticking to the correct lines here, but again, as you can see, anytime he has a gear change here, he has to slow down. So yeah, I think that's verifying that there is an issue here with it. But overall, good run, Eddie, right?
Yeah, very good run. And when you think about it, what he's having to do there, when that clutch pedal sticks to the ground, is actually put his foot underneath it and pull it back up. So, I mean, as if the circuit wasn't difficult enough. Now you got to, you can't just let off the clutch. You got to pull it back up as well manually.
Absolutely, kids these days, anything to make it harder.
So Dylan Garvey scores a 62 despite those issues with the car, and sits in 8th position so far. So a good run from him, and he will head back to the pits happy with that one. So Andy Keys, the next driver to leave the line. He's representing Enniskillen Tyre Centre, Key Squad, MD Tuning. I'm Tints, Drift Shed, NI, Crozier, Usel Photography, I think it is the pronunciation of that name, Peyton, yeah. MD1K, MTech Graphics, Magarherd, and DriftKits.eu. Firing it through that first corner as well.
Absolutely bang on clip theory there, which is exactly what you want to see. Nice and wide line, and see exactly what happens as you go deep into that clipping point 3. See how that naturally flows onto that correct line. He's going to go nice and wide here if he doesn't break too much, which he does, Eddie, a little bit. Coming a little bit out, now he's coming up to the outside of that teardrop. Back on line, but a little mistake there, Eddie. Yeah,
you really got to be very brave coming into that teardrop section. 2 wall zones as the drivers come through. It's a snappy transition as well onto that first wall. And then you got to get back onto the power, Pete, to try and push yourself all the way through the remainder of that.
Exactly.
And you're pushing yourself out onto another wall. We've seen a lot of lights head to the graveyard this weekend so far. Score comes in an 82.3 for Andy Keys. Tops qualifying with a monster run, and judges really rewarding that outer line.
Exactly right, Eddie, and that's exactly what you want to see. Again, what's critical here as well, which is good to see, is that the last couple of drivers before hadn't done that. So, good for him. Good timing there as well. A little bit of timing is all important.
Yeah, and a statement of intent, because now we move into our top 10 championship drivers. Graham Holden sits in 10th position in the championship as he comes out on this Mondello circuit for his first run. Fires it through the first corner. And nice line so far. Can he keep it wide? He certainly can. Graham Holden doing a really good job. Needs a big round here this weekend to try and get himself in the mix for that championship hunt. Feathering the throttle nicely, Pete, as he throws it onto that wide line. Look at this, right onto the wall from Graham Holden.
Absolutely, bang on line, Eddie. Nice inside clip there as he goes out wide and now looks to cut it in tight for this exit, and he does that exactly right. This could be a good score, Eddie.
That's a big run from Graham Holden, but is it enough to top qualifying? I'm not so sure. Hearing that car breaking down as it came down the straight, but certainly not hampering him. Oh, just misses out on top spot, but an 80.3 for Graham Holden as he jumps into 2nd position. Things really starting to heat up out on the track, Peden, not just weather-wise.
Not just weather-wise. The scores are getting higher. We're starting to hit consecutively a couple of 80-point scoring runs. and it is getting intense now, Eddie. I like this.
It really is, and you know what? We like to see these scores because those guys will be feeding through to their spotters will be radioing down saying, you know what? The driver before he's after putting in a big run. He's after scoring in the 80s. You got to come in here hot. Alan O'Neill is doing just that. He's representing Skunksworks Garage, Clippers Ireland, and the only, just as I was about to say, the only 13B rotary powered engine on the circuit, and unfortunately Alan O'Neill is going to limp back to the pits with a 0 after a spin at Link ECU corner. I'm just wondering, is there issues with that car? Something hanging off the rear end of that car. Looks like a drive shaft issue, possibly.
Oh yes, indeed, something is certainly hanging down there. We're not going to go anywhere near, as the judges confirm, a 0 for that run. What that could have been, Eddie, because we'd probably be wrong.
We're going to say a drive shaft.
We'll say
like
drive.
That,
Yeah, drive shaft sounds good. What is a drive shaft?
I think it's connected. It's like the exhaust or something.
Oh, the exhaust. Yeah. Typical issue with drift cars these days. Exhaust is falling off.
So there you go. Me and Pete knowing absolutely minimal amounts about drifting. I don't know how you get by, Pete. There's something wrong.
With a little help from my friends, Eddie.
Something wrong with the left phalange.
The left flange is all.
So here we go. Jordan Boyce, the 16-year-old student from County Londonderry, on the line. You just hear him hammering through the gears as he fires. Look at the entry, Pete, from Jordan Boyce as he comes to take that top spot in qualifying.
Sticking to that outside line, Eddie, and look at the smoke that's coming off the Sierra here as he plows through the course.
Yeah, that Power Max Engineering, G-Force Transmissions, Link Engine Management, BCM Engineering, 2.2 16-valve Scorpio engine Sierra fires through the circuit. Jordan Boyce came to play at round 3. Prize fight. Look at that run. What about that for a line, Pete?
Absolutely fantastic. And I do think, Eddie, if I may say so, we have a contender for first spot here.
Yeah, Smokin' Joe came to play here in Mondello Park. The score to beat is 82.3. Can Jordan Boyce top qualifying? Oh, judges not liking that one as much as you and me, Pete.
Nope.
But what do they know? A 78.3 and enough for a 3rd position for Jordan Boyce.
Yeah,
But we got to move it along. Our next driver on the line, Sean Watt, currently sits in 7th position in the championship. He's in the hunt, looking cool, calm and collected as always out on track. The fabricator from Antrim, representing Wattfab, Devlin Trailers, MD1K body kits and DM alignments. Dean Martin is his idol.
Yes, and I believe that. Not going out wide enough, though, unlike Dean, his idol.
You know what? It looked like it was going to be a beautiful line after that second clipping zone, but just didn't have the momentum to carry him all the way out to clip 3. Now, getting it back onto the wall, tags the wall, Pete, as he comes into the roundabout section, which we've borrowed from our friends over at Drift Masters, of course.
Oh, interesting. Oh, no, how bad? Which is a good addition to this year's championship, I do believe, right?
Yeah, look, mixing it up nicely here in the Irish Drift Championship. Sean Watt crosses the line, maybe not the run he was hoping for here as he came out for his first attempt at this brand new circuit. And of course, if you've just joined us, these guys, it's the Pro-Am section of the competition, but they will be looking for those top 4 spots, not only for championship position, 58 scored by Sean Watt, not only for championship position, but also the top 4 drivers get an opportunity to compete for €20,000. Yes, you heard me right. €20,000 on the line for the winner of round 3 of the Link Engine Management Irish Drift Championship. Prize fight was what we've called it, Pete. You'll be there. I'll be there to call it with Dave Egan tomorrow. At the moment, Dean Crozier about to take to the circuit. Could we see Dean Crozier mix things up in the Pro Championship tomorrow? Could we see him top qualifying? He'll be hoping to do so. He sits in 5th position in the championship right now. Big angle through that first section and just carried maybe a little bit too much angle, Pete. Not getting out to that 3rd zone as well as he would have liked, but gets it back on that wide line and puts the foot down, powers through that transitional section and then drops it onto the wall. A nice run here from Dean Crozier.
Lovely wide line here by Dean Crozier, and he is a fantastic pilot as well. Really important to note. But nice run so far, Eddie. I'm really liking the impact that he's got here, and that's also a criteria from the judges' perspective. It's not just a case of just running the perfect line, getting all those clipping points, but also if you can do that with a little bit extra angle, more tire smoke, and a lot of noise sometimes as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an extreme sport. We want to be entertained. That's what it's all about. The judges want to be entertained as well. So, Dean Crozier heads back to the pits, and a big score coming in that we're hearing. Will it be enough to top qualifying? An 88.3 from Dean Crozier. Dean Crozier goes top, an 88.3. You know what, Peden? There's only one way to beat an 88.3. We're going to have to see someone going into the 90s.
88.4, I suppose, and upwards, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you need, Eddie.
Thanks for
technically, that's what you need, yeah.
So, things heating up here. Dean Crozier goes top with an 88.3. Huge run there from him. Next driver on the line, Neil Dunn, a podium at round 1. What can he do at round 3, prize fight? Could we see Neil Dunn break into the 90s here? He's going to have to do a little bit better than that white line. And missing that second outer zone, not as deep as he would have liked, but look at this. This is where it's important, Pete.
He's pulling it back, Eddie. He's pulling it back, and he's getting on that nice wide line. Very fast exit here, is Neil, as he comes into this all-important teardrop round. Nice and wide line, Eddie, as he nails the course so far. Little mistake on entry, as you say, but the rest of it so far has been fantastic.
We have seen a brand new Neil Dunn behind the wheel this year. This man is just exuding confidence right now, and his driving style is phenomenal. What about that for a first run from Neil Dunn? Of course, representing MD Tuning, Team Kanjiuma, Zestino Tires, Carrick Tools, Heating Engineer Supplies, Group D, Turbos Direct, and TH Components. Rocking the SR20 underneath the bonnet of that car, 500 brake horsepower. As we await the judges' scores, where will Neil Dunn land? A 76.7 for him, and a nice start to qualifying as we move into our final 3 drivers awaiting to take their first run. The first of those will be Lee McFadden, who sits on the line, the stonemason from Donegal. Another driver rocking the SR20, 430 brake horsepower.
Love it.
His first and previous drift car was an S14 non-turbo.
As he launches into this first corner, nice on clipping point 2, nice and deep on clipping point 3, Eddie, also as he goes into Link ECU corner, nice and wide. Can he hold it?
Yeah, well, Lee's showing exactly why he sits in 3rd position in the championship right now. Really impressive stuff from him. Oh, losing the back end off the wall, and that contact causing him a little bit of trouble in the, has to deviate off his line, make a few corrections, but gets the car back on power. And imagine, Pete, that's going to hurt his score quite significantly.
Absolutely. Critically, though, he kept going, which is very important. Get that score, an all-important score on the board, right? But it's going to hurt him massively. Hitting a wall and coming offline like that is going to be a big deduction.
Just how much do you think the €20,000 prize fund for tomorrow will play in the minds of these guys? Of course, I know a lot of these drivers may not be coming to the event with expectations of making it, you know, even to a podium or tomorrow. But will it play on their mind nonetheless? I suppose it's an opportunity, a 20 grand, one way or another.
I know, it absolutely is. It's going to make some people really hungry, and it's going to make some people very nervous.
Score drops in for Lee McFadden. A 71 from him sees him into 9th position. You can only imagine how high that score would have gone had he not had that significant impact with the wall. We move it on, though. 2 drivers remaining. The next of those will be Ryan Caldwell. Just hasn't been able to pip Lee Scott to the top spot here this year so far, but 2nd position at round 2. Could we see him go one step further this weekend and take home top step on the podium as Caldwell makes a big weight transfer entry, fires it through the first corner and sends up that smoke signal so early on in the Quinn's Motorsport S15. 2J underneath the bonnet with 750 horsepower, so certainly not lacking as Caldwell puts foot to floor, throws it now nicely onto the wall, and this looking very smooth from Caldwell. But what would you expect from the 16-year-old student from Strabane in Tyrone? He's representing Aidan Caldwell, Plant Sales, AJ or Construction, TDP.ie, Mobile One, Quinn Motorsport, Gallagher Butchers, P. O'Neill Scaffolding, Link ECU, Macaulay Trailers, Team Last Minute Drifters, and D&E Components. And you know what? Ryan Caldwell, one of the guys that you would just not want to be coming up against here.
Absolutely. Today or tomorrow, for that matter, as well, right?
Exactly. So we await the score from the judges. And an 82 for Ryan Caldwell, 3rd position, not doing enough to get top spot, but you know what, Ryan Caldwell looking confident out there, and he knows when he comes out in his 2nd run that he's in that game. He'll be able to push that little bit harder. Could we see something special from him? Now, the man at the moment, the man and the name that is on everyone's lips right now, Lee Scott. I spoke to him a little bit earlier on, Pete. He will compete tomorrow if he makes it to the final 4 today. you know what? I reckon there's a few pro drivers that'll be a little bit scared to come up against him because he is on fire. Unbeaten in IDC, unbeaten in BDC, out-qualified at round 2 of BDC. Will he be out-qualified here today? Can he go top straight off? Look at the angle that he pulls through that. Oh! Little bit of an issue there, Pete.
Shutting it down. And
shutting it down
again.
Had some problems, mechanical issues, broke some drive shafts yesterday in practice. Could this be a repeat of those issues as he throws his hands in the air as he drives by the judging tower here?
And yes, there is certainly, I'm going to call it a phalange that's hanging down from the back left of the car. Looks like a drive shaft. Drive shaft is a new word for me, so I'm going to go with that.
So a 0 on the board for Lee Scott. Not the way he would have wanted to start his. Not the way he would have wanted to start his round 3. Oh no, we got to go back though. As we say, that completes the first half of qualifying. We go back to the start where John O'Hare sits on the line ready to take to the circuit for his second half. We will of course update you with what is going on with Lee Scott as the qualifying runs continue. But John O'Hare sits on a 60 from his first run inside that top 32. Can he improve on that? Looked very impressive on his first run, Pete.
Indeed, indeed. And John is a very aggressive driver in a very aggressive vehicle. So let's see how he gets on here. Nice and deep into clip point 2. Nice and wide into clip point 3.
Yeah, perfect so far is John O'Hare. And look at the line. Very deep into that outer section as he comes by Link Engine Management corner. If he can keep this going, he's on for a big one. Throws it now nicely onto the wall. Scrubs his speed. Oh, just comes away from it, Pete.
Just comes away from that perfect line that he was on, Eddie. A real shame there, but he is picked up again. He's back on that line again, and as he over-rotates slightly. Oh, that's two big mistakes there, Eddie. But hopefully the rest of the run will keep the points up high for him.
You know what it is though, Pete? A couple of mistakes in that run, but John O'Hare is pushing it really hard, pushing the limits. He knew he was on a decent run from his first attempt. He was looking to try and improve on that and get himself up the running order. Where are we going to see him land? A big improvement there though. A 68.7 puts him into 12th position. Not bad though, not bad for John O'Hare, and he'll be happy with that. And certainly looks as though he will be safe for battle action later on as we move it along to Phil Duffy. And Phil, of course, very unlucky with a 0 on his first run. Big time here. Obviously, he has to put a big score on the board to try and get himself into the show.
Absolutely. A couple of nerves perhaps in the first run, which is going to make it even worse in the second run. But good initiation and good entry so far. Nice and deep on clip 2. Hits that clip in point 3. Out and wide now to Link ECU corner. Not in a bad trajectory here, Eddie. Good line so far. Yeah,
look, this is a really good line with the pressure of having a 0 on your first run as he comes back out on circuit. One run to get yourself into the game. Comes away from that wall zone just a little bit early and maybe not as deep as he would have wanted. Judges will probably penalise the score significantly for that, but Phil doing everything that he needs to do just to get that car around the circuit. Nice through the final zone and crosses the line. You know what? With the pressure of a 0, Pete, there's a lot to be said for getting the car around the circuit.
Not a bad job there either. That would have been a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
I think, you know, could be high 50s, even up to the mid 60s here for that run. We just wait for the judges to give their verdict. So judges just deliberating this one a little bit. Oh, and a 60.7. So yeah, mid-pack and a score, and it sits in 18th position.
Indeed, and a great beard there as well in his profile picture there, Eddie. I mean, which is important.
Fantastic beard, yes, which adds 10 horsepower to the car.
And 2 points in qualifying.
And 2 points in qualifying. So there you go. 7 years commitment to growing the beard for those extra 2 points in qualifying, and a man who needs to pull something big out of the bag here, Tom Murphy, the stuntman, at 24 on his first run, Pete. Now, this means Tom Murphy has 1 run to get it done. He sits outside the top 32. We saw just probably overly aggressive on his first run. Needs to just tone back the...
Not going to happen with Tom. He's going to go full tilt as he goes into this inside clipping point. Nice and wide for clip 3, Eddie.
Full Tom, and this is, you know what? This is what we talked about. Tom Murphy can pull out incredibly impressive runs, and he's on a stomper of a qualifying line at the moment.
Nailing the course so far as he scrubs the wall.
Can he keep it going? Just about gets back on the power. Tom Murphy threw in, massive angle onto that wall. Do you know what? It's like there's the devil and the angel on his shoulder. They're fighting with each other. Hands out the window. Give him a round of applause as he just about gets it across the line there. 360s over the line.
It was a happy man. It was a happy man. He's fixing a dent there on his roof, obviously, Eddie, which is important to do after your run.
So yeah, the devil on one shoulder telling him just go crazy, and the the Angel saying, you know what, you want to qualify here as well. So
absolutely. It's not all about tyre smoke, though. It's about having a consistent and clean run. A little bit scrappy there from Tom. So let's see what the score is, Eddie.
How incredible does that car look as well with that GT86 front end? Who would have thunk it?
I don't know who would have thunk it, but who would have thought it? I don't know either.
And a 61 drops in for Tom Murphy into 18th position. Big run there with the weight of, you know, a poor round 2. Things not going right for him. Coming out, gets a 24 in his first run. Had to pull it out of the bag. We go back to the start line, though, where Kevin Kilgariff is on the line, waiting patiently for his second run. Now, Kevin Kilgariff, if you remember, Pete, scored a 27 on his first run.
Yes.
Not what he wanted, not what the judges wanted to see. He needs to come back out here. And again, this diesel-powered E46.
Fuel-efficient vehicle. Oh, just... There must be something wrong with it. He's straightening out there as he's pulling through, so there's a lot of power missing from that car. It looks like it. Let's see, can he continue through? Picking up the pace again here as he goes nice and wide out of that exit of the Lick ECU corner. Losing power again, and he shuts it down.
Yeah, definitely issues with that car for Kevin Kilgariff this weekend. And, you know, at that point, he had those errors on entry, but it was looking like he'd managed to get the car back online and was doing a good job of negotiating the circuit efficiently. But as you see, he heads back to that pit area, and that unfortunately will mean the end of the weekend for Kevin Kilgariff, shutting down and not finishing the circuit. Obvious enough that that is a 0.
Indeed. 0 confirmed, Eddie.
So a man who is enjoying his drifting here this weekend, Tomas Falvey, your teammate, and you know, Tomas, a very capable driver. Could we see him make it to the Final Four this weekend, Pete?
I think
you
so.
know him almost as well as
He's
anybody.
been progressing from strength to strength ever since we started practice yesterday, and so here he goes off the line in his Drift Games Moose Design trailer company S15 as he fires it into turn 1, nice and deep at clipping point 2, a lot of impact deep into clipping point 3 as well, nice and wide now, and a great angle as well by Tomas Falvey here.
And of course, it's a very basic car.
It is, yeah.
We've made mistakes in the past saying that this was, you know, this car had the best of the best, but that's actually completely wrong. It's a very basic build, nothing fancy in it. You know, just thrown together with cable ties and a bit of duct tape.
Yeah, and you'd be a brave man to tell him that to his face. Yeah. This vehicle has everything from sequential to winter stiff. I'm running a summer stiff in mine. He's running a winter stiff.
Winter stiff, yeah. But the great thing about the winter stiff is that you can actually run it in the summer.
It's all about that refrigeration there, Eddie, you know.
That's what it is. So, Tomas Falvey, Flavor Falv as we like to call him.
You like to call him. I am certainly not going to call him
The
that.
happiest man in drifting.
Indeed. And least aggressive person also.
And we hear the score coming through. Look at this though, Pete. Tomas Falvey jumps into second position with an 83.7. Wow. That's going to put a smile on his face.
He will be delighted with that, and great work there by Tomas Falvey.
So second position for Tomas Falvey as he bumps himself right up the order. What happens if Tomas Falvey qualifies into the main event tomorrow?
He will undoubtedly be driving. Tomas has fought for many, many years to get into that show on a Sunday, and if he gets that opportunity, he will fight for it.
So of course we're not 100% sure what the agreement is with himself and Conor Shanahan, but of course that would be an interesting topic of conversation to be a fly on the wall of. So as we see Ross Kenny take to the circuit, it looked as though Martin Green limped back to the pits, not under his own power, so we'll keep you updated on what's going on there as Ross Kenny takes to the circuit for his second attempt at qualifying. A little bit wide through that second zone, Peden, but
overcommits there, Eddie, as he goes through that second clipping point, coming up very short to clip point 3, putting him on the wrong line, and you can even see here, he's transitioning too early now, which means he might come to the inside right. Hits the wall, and backs off, but keeps going. Fair play to Ross Kenny here as he plows through the rest of the course.
Yeah, Ross Kenny battling out on this circuit at the moment, and you know, I think a poor run on his first attempt, a 32 on the board for him, and I'm not sure, some mistakes early on, Peden, which I think could weigh heavily on the score that he receives from the judges. Will it be enough though to get himself into that top 32? I think it could be borderline, and if he does make it in, I think he could be down the order, and it might be a nervous wait for him.
Certainly, no lack of commitment here, right?
No lack of commitment. But you know what? 20 grand on the line. If you're not giving it everything, you know, you're not. There's no point in showing up.
Yeah.
And you just see a 50.7 for Ross Kenny, jumps him into 27th position, as we said, just inside that top 32. But now he has the nervous wait because a lot of drivers sitting on low scores or zeros from their first run. Tommy O'Neill, the next man to leave the line, he sits on a 67, so well up the order, just inside the top 15. Tommy O'Neill starts in 13th position.
Good first run there, it is, and he'll know what he has to go and improve on now, so it's all down to just having to do it, basically, right? So let's see how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're coming out in your first run and you're just a few points shy of a 70, you know that you're doing a lot of things right, and it's just about getting that little bit deeper into those outer zones, and that's where the scores start to creep up a little bit faster, a little bit more commitment for these guys. And Tommy O'Neill throwing it nicely down onto the wall. Look at this, inch perfect as he comes through the roundabout.
Lovely wide transition out to clipping point 10 by the wall. Little flicker that inside clipping point, now out wide, and then finishes in tight here again.
Just needs to pull himself back in and get that nose into that inner zone. And as they cross the line, Tommy O'Neill, its consistency is key, especially when it comes to battles. A consistent driver can be very difficult to try and beat. And Tommy O'Neill's certainly showing that consistency. Now, when the score drops in, where will he be? A 67 on his first run. Will we see something similar? Will we see an improvement? I think that one could have been, you know, jumping into the 70s. For me, it looked like a very good run.
Good line there as well, all important.
69, just shy of that 70 mark. But as we say, he's very consistent. 12th position for Tommy O'Neill. And he'll be very happy with that qualifying session this morning.
Indeed, Eddie.
Now, Shane Mackin leaves the line of 50.3 for him, and a driver that was looking quite good out there this morning. He just bring it together to bring a big run. Wait to see where he is in the order. If you're watching, of course, online at home, you can see the scoreboard in the left-hand side of your screen.
A little bit deep there, Eddie, as he enters into that first corner. Makes it out wide to clipping point 3, but had to sacrifice a small bit. Now he's on that correct line again, which is exactly what we want to see. Transition back now out towards the first of the walls. Stays out wide, could be deeper here, Eddie, but a nice consistent line thus far.
Yeah, you know what, if you're Shane Mackin, you're sitting in 28th position, you've put in a decent score on your first attempt, but you know you've got to pull out a big score to get yourself into the game, but you don't want to push that too much. You know a score in the 60 is going to be enough to get you in the game, and you know, you're battling the idea of, if I push too hard and I make a mistake, then I could, you know, risk scoring a 0. If I go out there and just, you know, get myself into those zones, maybe not push overly deep, could get myself in an area where I'm scoring a 60. You can see Martin Green in the distance moving back up to the start line, so whatever issue it was has been sorted. He jumps up the order though, Shane Mackin, 2 positions to 26th with a 54.3. Of course, if you're thinking about coming down here tomorrow, weather is promised to be perfect once again. Grandstand seats sold out, but you can of course get your tickets at the gate. It promises to be a fantastic event. Grandstand tickets available of course today as well, if you want to come down and check out the Pro-Am action as Harry Kerr takes to the circuit for his second run. A 74 on his first run, Pete, you might remember. So this is a man that's on form here this weekend and looking very comfortable on this Mondello circuit and proving just that. Nice line through the first section.
He's doing a lot with very little here, Eddie, and that line is bang on, and that's exactly what the judges want to see. They want to see that intent for a correct line, nice and wide here as well, using that momentum he's carrying throughout that course, proving that he's on the correct line. Nice and early out to clipping point 10. Little bit shy there on that inside clipping point, but doing an okay job here as he finishes out, Eddie.
Yeah, maybe not the perfect transition, but other than that, Harry Kerr killing it out there, and a man that I think is going to cause some problems later on. Definitely one to watch for today's competition, as Harry Kerr goes back to the pit lane. He'll enjoy a well-deserved rest and probably just try and cool himself down, spray a little bit of water over him, and we wait that score to drop in. Look at this, jumps up the order, a 77, so what about that from the young gun, 7th position for him. And
one to watch, certainly.
A fresh face on the grid, nice to see. So, I mean, that must have been nerve-wracking. We're not hearing what exactly went wrong with Martin Green's car, but 2 or 3 runs ago, he was towed off the track by our team here in Mondello Park. Just momentarily ago, we saw him make his way back to the start line, and he's just about made it for his second qualifying run.
Absolutely, and he's done really well so far as well. So very aggressive. I saw him remove the rear end of his vehicle yesterday, you know, on one of the walls. Is coming back out here again and is ready to pounce on that content.
Yeah, scored 58 on his first run as he makes his way through that chicane and slams through the gears. The bonnet's flapping as he makes his way down that main straight, fires it through that first corner a little bit wide. but gets it nicely into that third clipping zone. Can he keep it on the wide line? He certainly can, Pete, doing a really good job through that section, that link engine management corner. A lot of weight being put on the scores there as Martin Green looks to improve on that 58, throws it bumper flat on the wall as he came by, but gets it wrong. Now he sits inside the top 25, so should be safe for the top 32.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how the judges score this. This could very well be technically a 0, right?
Yeah, so will that be deemed as a loss of drift? That was, it was a pretty big error there.
It was indeed, right? There was lack of forward momentum there, which is important, and confirmed.
Yeah, there you can see if you're watching at home on the live stream, a 0. And of course, if you are coming down to Mondello Park tomorrow, we will have a big screen in front of the grandstand for all you guys to watch all the replays and all the action. We got to move it on. Bart O'Shea on the line. And what about the first run from Keith Bart O'Shea? Probably could have been just a little bit wider in some of the zone, but other than that, a 59 on the board, and he is well up the order.
He is indeed, and in a great looking car here as well. I absolutely love these shaped cars, obviously because I'm biased because I have a couple of them. But nice entry here, does Keith. Again, dipping that wheel on the inside, which is going to throw him off the rest, locking that front wheel as he's breaking into that link ECU corner. Now back online, Eddie.
Yeah, I think, you know, Bart just has 1 or 2 corrections to make on his entry. You can see those dotted lines on that first corner. Judges saying they want that driver's side front wheel just inside that. Bart a little bit shy of it. But this rest of the circuit hooking up really nicely for Bart. Oh, just...
Ooh, and I was about to say, Eddie, today is, I believe, Keith's birthday as well, so he'd be hoping for a nice early birthday present here as well, but shutting it down there. Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday.
Happy, wow.
Yeah.
And on that note, Eddie, I am going to go into the pits. I'm going to put on my Drift Games race suit, my tracksuito, and I'm going to get ready for pro practice. It's going to happen just as soon as this is over.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. And Pete, and thank you for joining me and making my life a little bit easier, as I'm going to
probably made it worse.
Fly the flag on my own here for the remainder of qualifying, but we will be looking forward to seeing what you can do out on track in practice and, of course, in the main event tomorrow. So our next driver to leave the line for his second run will be Robin Neeson, and of course Robin scoring a 65 on his first attempt, and he will be looking just to improve on that and looking very comfortable out on circuit here as he fires through the corner. Look at this really wide line from Robin Neeson, looking very confident, gets back on the power now and shreds his tires in these very tricky warm track conditions. Those tires just disintegrating out on circuit, but Robin Neeson flat through this circuit, doing a really nice job. Just comes a little bit wide though and misses that final zone, and a little bit offline as he crosses the line, but certainly looking confident out there and keeping that consistent nature through his run. Can he improve on that 65? Robin Neeson awaits the scores from the judges. And Robin, of course, that car with a fresh graphic scheme on it as well this weekend, and really looking so cool out on track as the judges just have their discussions over their scores. And as they come through into our computer system, we wait to see that pop up on the live stream feed, and a score of 61 for Robin Neeson. So no improvement there for him on his first run, but doing enough to keep him mid-pack. 15th position for him is where he will land after his second run. So our next driver to take to the circuit for his second run is Damien Short. Now, Damien Short on a 0, you might remember from his first run, not completing the run. And you can see just that rear end of that S14 suffering a little bit of damage after he's made some significant impact with the walls here this weekend. And again, just not the perfect run here from Damien Short, struggling to get that car out to those outer lines, and I think battling all weekend to try and get that car set up properly, and yeah, a real battle, and unfortunately big error there as he came into the teardrop section. I think he knows himself that that won't be enough on this occasion. Bows out of the run, and it just seems as though it possibly a clutch issue there for Damien Short, and confirmation there from the judges. A 0 on his second run means he will bow out of the competition and the end of his weekend. So Damien Short, 2 0s. Kenny Mulligan next on the line, and Kenny Sits on a score of 50.3 from his first run. Can he improve on that as he fires it down the straight now? Kenny Mulligan slams through the gears. Big entry, just about keeping that front wheel on those white dotted lines, and nicely out to that third outer zone and keeping it pinned. And Kenny Mulligan doing everything right so far. Nice snappy transition, throws it down onto the wall. Oh, but a big error, and just backs out of it here. Backing out of it and just avoids impact with those solid concrete walls. And he knows himself at that point. A 0 on the board for Kenny Mulligan, and a 29th position is where he'll stay, and a nervous wait for him. 50.3 is what he scored on his first run, and unfortunately not able to improve on that. Now Paul Kennedy is going to leave the line, a man looking very confident here so far this weekend. A 69.7 scored on the first half of qualifying. What can he do now this time around? Slams through the gears, fires it into that first corner, and nicely through that second outer zone, or second inner zone rather. Gets back on the power now after that transition. Look at the wide line though from Paul Kennedy. Very impressive, and just what the judges were talking about in qualifying. They want to keep the drivers out and wide, less grip out there, because a lot of drivers deviating from that line, taking a shallower line through that corner. But Paul Kennedy looks like a man on a mission here on those very grippy Z-Tex tires this weekend, saying he loves the way they grip up and work with this E36 M3 powered BMW. And certainly one to watch here. Paul Kennedy representing Z-Tex tires, as I mentioned, McKeown's Garage, DM Alignments, White's Trailers, Carb Oil, Fun Sport Automotive, and Mileage Tires. So we await that score to drop in from Paul Kennedy, and look at this, yeah, another steady, consistent run, a 70.3 for Paul Kennedy, and certainly a man on a mission this weekend, and one to watch, looking very steady out there. Now, next driver on the line, Ryan Morton, who uncharacteristically scored a 48 on the first half of qualifying. Needs to improve big time. Looked as though it may have been an issue with the car though on his first attempt. Hopefully he's got that car sorted. He is back on the line in the Morton's Coaches R32, rocking the RB power underneath the bonnet, as he takes the circuit for his second run, representing Motorsport 56 and Morton's Coaches. He says he's one of those people that's good at a lot of things but not great at anything. He's an ex-motocross champion, so a lot of motorsport experience under his belt, and he is here to try and put it up to the big boys. Look at this commitment, perfect line. Judges really liking this one. Eyes firmly focused on Ryan Morton right now as he makes that snappy transition into the final section. Ryan Morton is on a big run here. Can he take it across the line? He certainly can. Ryan Morton bigs it up for a second run with it all counted, with it all to do. Big run from Ryan Morton. So the score drops in for Ryan Morton, and an 80-point run for him on his second run means he jumps into 6th position. 6th position for Ryan Morton. He will be delighted with that after his issues on the first run. As we move on to our next driver, Shay Rogers in the monster 2JZ powered 800 brake horsepower Toyota Supra. Bonnet off to allow as much cooling as possible as Rogers fires it into that first corner. Shay Rogers came to play this weekend, and this run looking inch perfect so far. Can he keep it together? Gets that car back on power now, and Shay Rogers throws it down onto the wall. Big run and a wall slap from Shay Rogers. This car, so cool. And Shay Rogers, the refrigeration engineer, the only cool man out on circuit right now, sends up the biggest smoke cloud that we have seen today, and as he crosses the line, Shay Rogers completes his second half of qualifying, scored a 75.3 on his first run, and you know what? I think that one could be right up there contending for top spot. Will it be enough though to break into the 80s or even the 90s? Shay Rogers awaits his second score. He will go back. The score comes true, and an 89.3 for Shay Rogers. First position for Shay Rogers in qualifying. A monstrous run. Going to go quickly back to the judges there because that was a really big run.
A few corrections, which definitely docked him a few points, but he nailed the qualifying line there and massive impact throughout. Good angle transitions and everything, so really high score there for me.
So there you go, a big run there, enough to top qualifying so far. As we move it on to our next driver, which will be Paulius Judicious. He's on a 55 from his first run, and a reminder that this car is a borrowed car. First time ever driving it this weekend. Blew the engine, unfortunately, in Friday practice in his own car, and had to borrow a car for this weekend. A V8 under the bonnet of this M5 V8. It's a borrowed car from John Joyce, and Paulie is doing a good job just getting comfortable inside this car. Looking to improve though on that first run and doing a nice job here. So a little bit more commitment is what the guys were saying that he needed, and it certainly looks like as though he has that on this second run as he pulls it out of the bag. Gets nicely out to that final walled zone. Snappy transition now into the final sections, and as Paulius Judicious takes it across the line, big run there from him. So there you go, Paulius Judicious completes his second lap of qualifying. So the score drops in for Paulius Judicious, and a 69 on his second run puts him into 14th position. Not bad for a man whose engine blew in his own car yesterday, and first time driving that car, and he is right in the mix for battle action later on this afternoon. Of course, we are cutting our grid from 40 drivers down to 32, and those spots in the top 32 very precious here this weekend, and these drivers will at that point later on this afternoon, half two, we'll be going live to top 32. Now next on the line, Francis O'Shea, as he fires it through the first corner for his second run of qualifying, just not getting out to that third outer zone though, and Francis O'Shea gets back on the power now after he scrubbed some speed just to keep himself nicely on circuit into link engine management now through the final teardrop section of the course. This is where it gets tricky. Has to scrub speed but then get back on the power to take the car out to the wall. And Francis O'Shea, this hooking up really well from here through the final sections, and looks as though he's going to cross the line with no issues. A 59 scored on the first run for Francis O'Shea, so right in the mix with that. Looking to improve though. Can he break into the 60s or even the 70s with that second run and just give himself a better chance? Of course, the higher up in qualifying that you go, the easier the run that you should have to the podium. Of course, that won't always be true, but a 72 on the board for Francis O'Shea, a massive improvement for him on his second run, but only enough for 11th position, so scores dropping in nice and high now at this point. And a lot of the guys really on form this weekend, proving just how much they want to be in the game. 20 grand, as we mentioned, 20,000 euro. Just think of it, what you do with 20,000 euro prize money for the winner of the main event here tomorrow. So Jack Shield leaves the line for his second run. You might remember on his first run, Jack not completing the circuit and scoring a 0. So with it all to do here, as he pushes very wide, again, underpowered car. Very difficult just to keep that momentum flowing all the way through the circuit. But Jack Shield doing a nice job so far. Not able to get overly wide into some of those outer zones, but still getting the car around the circuit. As we've mentioned before, when you have a 0 on your first run, things can become very tricky because you're battling with yourself of, do I go all out or do I just try and put in a steady run that will get me in the game? But Jack Shield showing that he has nerves of steel right now, gets that car across the line. Guys, give him a round of applause, because a 0 on your first run, not easy when you only have one run remaining 270 brake horsepower underneath the bonnet of that car, so certainly a struggle for Jack Shield. The electrician from Waterford, he's representing Mad Racing this weekend, and the score drops in from the judges, 63.3 for Jack Shield, 19th position for him, and he jumps right into the mix and should be safe for battle action. Now, our next driver leaving the line for his second run in qualifying is Trevor McInerney, representing DT Autos at McElliott's Castletown Motors. And on his first run, a 54 was laid down. What can he do this time around? Firing through that first corner. Very fast entry here from Trevor McInerney, but just maybe overcommitting, getting offline a little bit and not able to get deep into clip in zone 3. Starts to feather that throttle though now, as it comes into the tight technical section of the track, but a spin for Trevor McInerney. And unfortunately, the end of his second run, he will bow out. Just be interesting to see when the scoreboard pops up. Did he manage to get into the top 32 based on his first run? I know a number of drivers sitting on zeros. Yeah, just about a 29th position for Trevor McInerney. So a nervous wait for him, as a few drivers still to go. Not many, mind you, a few drivers still to go with uncompleted or 0 runs scored. So we move along to David Garvey. David Garvey scored a 55 on his first run. And Garvey, the first of our 2 Garvey brothers here this weekend, both representing Deltwood, both representing Suffin Plant Tire, Mad Racing, BM Auto Works and Everything Racing. Billy Ryan Tires also on board for these Deltwood guys. David Garvey has been putting it up to a lot of our more consistent drivers this weekend, or this season so far. He's been like a new man and looking very comfortable. Looks like he's really got to grips with this PS13 and hooking up really nicely now. Starting to look very confident on this Mondello layout. A brand new layout, of course, for all of these drivers here this weekend. The first half of the circuit pretty much the same as previous rounds that we've had in Mondello, but David Garvey now crosses the line, and that looks as though it should be an improvement on his first run. 55, as we said, on his first run, and not doing anything overly dangerous on that particular run, just doing what he needed to do, getting around safely, and a big score drops in, a 70.3 for him, jumps into 14th position. So we move it along, and as we come to the higher end ranking drivers, Nigel Moody sits on the line. 14th in the championship at the moment is Nigel Moody. Certainly not out of it by any means, but he would need a big finish this weekend in order to give himself good hopes. And a big entry, pulled almost 90 degrees as he comes through that first corner. Nigel Moody gets back on the power, and again just not finding that wide line through Link Engine Management corner. And certainly the judges will be looking at that as an area where they can find fault and deduct his score. Now Nigel gets this car back online. Nice snappy transition, very good on that front clipping zone, and again on the final frontal clipping zone as he crosses the line. And a very difficult circuit for these guys to be perfect all the way throughout. Of course, a lot going on. You have that very fast blind entry, then you have to slow the car quite significantly for a snappy transition, get back on the power all the way around through Link Engine Management corner, and that's where it gets tricky again, with a number of transitions in quite quick succession before entering that wall zone of the circuit. And this score jumps in for Nigel Moody, a 67 for him, so an improvement on his first run, an 18th position in qualifying. So another guy looking very consistent out there. So Shane Reedy getting ready to leave the line, just steadying himself behind the wheel, gets the marshal order through the chicane system, and as he slams through the gears and making his way down that main straight, Shane Reedy, nice line through the first corner, very good through clip 1 and 2. Can he keep this going through clip 3? He certainly can. Very steady looking run so far, very fluid. Just here feathering that throttle nicely, negotiating the Mondello circuit very well, and doing everything that he needs to do. Judges really keeping a close eye on this one. Just comes away from that second wall zone a little bit early, and not getting the proximity maybe that the judge was looking for. A very good run, but not a run that's going to bring him into contention for top spot, but certainly Shane Reedy, a man that looks very confident out on the circuit at the moment, and one to watch, I'd imagine, later on when it comes to battle action. So as we wait the judges' scores to drop in, you can just see, if you're watching at home, nice little breeze flowing through Mondello Park here at the moment. We have blue skies, conditions so good, and I suppose the only people not liking the hot weather conditions are some of our drivers. Shane Reedy not able to improve though on that first run, a 65.3 for him. If you are in attendance, of course, make sure and check out our merchandise tent, where you can get all the latest in the Drift Games and IDC merchandise. Jess and the guys down there look after you. If you're watching at home online, check it all out on idcnation.com. You can check out, again, the whole range. Grab yourself a bargain online as Dylan Garvey, the second of our Garvey brothers, leaves the line. And Dylan Garvey, certainly a future star, and a star in the making. The champion of our IDC amateur series that we run in the winter here in Mondello Park. And Dylan Garvey has looked so impressive. By no means a fish out of water, just slotted straight into the Pro-Am competition. And it just looks as though he's been competing here for, you know, 5 or 6 years. You wouldn't think it was his debut year in this championship. Gets the car around the circuit, and again, looking very confident. Business as usual for Dylan Garvey. 62 on the board from the first run, and from where I'm sitting, that looks like it could be you know, a similar score, if not an improvement. Judges actually discussing this one, seeing maybe something that I didn't, but yeah, look at this, a score dropping in of 69.3, so not breaking into the 70s, but Dylan Garvey goes mid-pack, 16th position for him. We move it along, now moving into our final 10 drivers to leave the line. Andy Keys currently sitting in 11th position in the championship. Andy Keys put in a monstrous first run on his first attempt, an 82.3. As the sides of his big wing flap through the wind as he comes down that big straight, foot to the floor. And this is looking nice from Andy Keys. Perfect line through link engine management. And he's just looking so comfortable out there. This looks like it's going to be another big run. Judges amazed by this one. You can see just inch perfect, and a driver that pays a lot of attention to what the judges say in that driver briefing, paying a lot of attention to the line that the judges lay out, and that's what's important. That's where these guys are going to pick up the big scores. It's by paying attention to that line that the judges have specified in the qualifying briefing in the morning that they want to see out on track. So Andy Keys, another driver on the grid who just looks so confident out on the track at the moment. Will that be enough to contend for top spot? No, unfortunately not. An 84.7 for him. Enough for third position though, and I think he'll be heading back to the pits very happy with that. 2 runs in the 80s in qualifying, not bad for round 3 on a brand new circuit here in Mondello Park. Graham Holden gets ready to leave the line as he gets marshal orders through the chicane, slamming through the gears, first, second, third, and even fourth gear for a lot of these drivers. Throws on big angle through the first corner, now gets back on the power. And this is looking very nice from Graham Holden, an 80 score on his first run, feathering the throttle nicely. You can just hear him on and off the rev limiter as he comes through that section now, throws it onto the wall. Can he keep this wide to the walls? He certainly can. Graham Holden looking to make a move at the championship here this weekend, but shuts it down. Graham Holden shutting it down, and that will be a 0 for him. For his second run sits on the line, and a nervous wait, you'd imagine, for this young man who scored a 0 on his first run. Bonnet off, just trying to keep as much air flowing into that 13B rotary powered engine. Of course, engine temperatures being monitored very closely by our drivers this weekend, and they'll be hoping that they just can keep those engines in good running order and suffer no mechanical difficulties. Obviously, these engines running very high horsepower. Alan O'Neill tagging the wall as he exits the roundabout. Can he keep this going? This looking like a really good run right when it matters from Alan O'Neill. 2 clips to go. Can he tuck it in for the final section? He certainly can. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Alan O'Neill, pulling out the big runs when it matters. So score dropping in from our judges. Alan O'Neill sit on a 0 from his first run. Needed something big, and he pulled something big out of the bag. A 72.3. Just misses out on the top 10, but into 11th position. So the track is clear. We have Marshall's orders. The next man to leave the line will be Jordan Boyce. He fired through the circuit on his first run. What can the young man do this time around on his second qualifying run as he leaves the line? Jordan Boyce, here we go. Down the stretch he comes in a big weight transfer entry. Oh, but too far over and too deep into that second zone. That line, offline, the judges will be saying, and he will be penalised for that now. Can he improve on the second half of the circuit? You just hear him feathering that throttle ever so slightly. Perfect car control. Drops a wheel, and you can just see as the result losing the rear bumper as he makes impact with that second wall zone. Not the run that Jordan Boyce was looking for, but don't take your eyes off this young man. He is a star of the future, and he will be back for battle action later on, and he's certainly not a driver that I would want to be coming up against as he leaves the line. Certainly I don't expect that to be an improvement on his first run. A 78 on his first run, very impressive from Jordan Boyce. So judges just computing their scores, and a 61 for Jordan Boyce. So as we expected, no improvement on his first attempt, and he stays in 8th position. So I'm getting a little bit of light relief here in the tower as I'm joined by David Egan. You've been busy, Dave. Obviously a very big weekend here, a lot going on, and massive prize money, unprecedented for Irish drifting.
Yeah, I've just been watching on and enjoying every moment of it. The sun shining, plenty of walls, plenty of transitions, exactly what you want to see, and I'm looking forward to Sean Watt's second one here also.
Yeah, Sean Watt is, as always, just wowing us here this weekend. Looks so confident out on track, Dave, and, you know, this car, he just knows how to drive it so perfectly, throws it onto the wall. He's one of those drivers, he's all about the show, big smoke, big angle, rev limiter.
Yeah, never off the throttle whatsoever, and of course that naturally aspirated car working very well with the second half of this course here, Eddie, because it's quite slow, quite technical compared to some of the faster layouts we've run here, so you can see a real equalizer of grip and horsepower this weekend. And I think if you look across the grid there, I think everybody's hungry for it. Everyone thinks they've got a shot here. The start line's been moved, you know, from previous years, so that big run in isn't as big a factor. We're trying to equalize it to find the best driver, and especially if you're going to give away €20,000 tomorrow evening, you want it to be the best driver, not just the guy with the most grip and horsepower. So there you go, another good run from Sean Watt. 60.7 leaves him in 25th position, and scores pretty high, Eddie, at the moment. I've been watching on, and everyone's on it.
Yeah, everyone is on it, but you know what? If you're not on it this weekend, Dave, you know, why did you even show up? You know, me and Peyton spoke about it earlier on. 20 grand up for grabs here this weekend. These guys in the Pro-Am Championship, they're the unknown. There is no reason why they couldn't compete tomorrow.
Absolutely. Look at the first score from Dean Crozier, 88.3. Like, he's coming into the second one now. Nothing to lose. Trying to top qualify and trying to go, oh, and a big error from, that seems to be a lockup of the back wheels that just, and you know what, it's been a story of Dean Crozier's year, Eddie, that he has either moments of amazing brilliance and then all of a sudden the car lets him down. So he's lucky to get that first run in. He's definitely into the top 32 battle action. But
yeah, he had a monstrous first run, and as you say, lucky to have that under his belt, and that's why it's so important to have that first good run, because obviously if you have an issue such as we're seeing now,
I think it may be a drive shaft issue there. You can see Andy, one of our marshals, having a look under the back of the car. It's a different drive shaft, I'd imagine. And from that perspective, he's probably going to need to be recovered from the track. But at the moment, Shay Rogers, again, we're just saying about guys who, if the car works, are well capable of winning on any given day, but their cars have let them down repeatedly over the year. And I suppose that is the nature of the game now. These cars are running huge horsepower, huge grip, and especially grip. Obviously, when you go from a handbrake to a full throttle, you know, moment in a car, that's a lot of grip being sent through the drivetrain, a lot of pressure there, and you're starting to see drive shaft stiffs, especially when we were recording the track temperature here in Mondello, and it's hard to believe in the Bermuda Triangle that is Mondello, 52 degrees on the track, which is very, very
crazy,
warm, very warm, and that's making these tires super grippy, even more so than normal. That's causing some issues for some of the guys out there, and Dean is one of those. Yeah, and you have to remember, you know, we are only at the Pro-Am section of the competition, so a lot of these drivers may not have or won't have experience driving in maybe European championships where they would get used to hotter track conditions.
conditions like that. So a lot of learning.
Anybody from Ireland is not used to any sort of weather conditions at all. I mean, if it's too cold or too hot, we fall apart as a nation. So this weekend you can hear a lot of people saying it's far too warm. I mean, I've been here in the rain with the tower getting blown over in the wind and rain, and I'll take this any day. But again, the guys in the cars having to adapt, stay hydrated, something they would never think about normally in Mondello, that they have to obviously keep their water levels up, and have to, obviously the cars are very warm, they've got cooling issues.
And these guys are going to have to learn how to manage their tyres that little bit better as well with
Absolutely.
these increased track
Yes,
temperatures.
a blown diff on Dean Crozier's car. We're hearing reports for the marshals there. So, it would be a disaster if he didn't have an 88 on the board already. So he can go in there. I'm sure Dean, with the amount of diffs and half shafts he's broken all year, has plenty in the van to put back on that car and get back out here. Remember, the top 4, what a prize there is for those guys. Not just points in the championship, which of course Lee Scott's staying undefeated at the moment, but the chance to go into that, you're in the mix, equal chance tomorrow to take home €20,000. That's what those guys will be aiming for. And of course, if you wanted this weekend, if you're watching in from home and you want to get some t-shirts or some hats, official merchandise on sale now on the driftgames.live website for IDC and for Drift Games. And if you want to check something out, support the series. If you're watching in from home, make sure that you guys grab some gear, sit at home, at least support the championship, and get our sponsors some recognition. And the stuff this year is really, really cool. So we want to see you rocking it.
Yeah, no, I suppose what's important to go back to as well, Dave, is that Lee Scott, undefeated so far this year. We saw almost a little bit of a chink in his armour in BDC round 2 where he was out qualified. He sits on a 0 at the moment from his first qualifying run here this morning.
I mean, you talk about drifting and showing up stories, and that's what I probably love about this sport more than just the horsepower and the grip and the cars and the smoke and all that, is that there's the drama that it brings. Because in any other motorsport, you have laps, you've got time, you've got a whole lot of time to get back into a race, unless you've had a huge crash or whatever. But here, the slightest mechanical error, the slightest error of judgment within a 30 to 40 second run, and you go home.
And the question I want to know the answer to is, when Lee Scott comes back out on track, will he go for a safe run just to get himself into the game and rely on his driver ability to get him to the podium?
I think he's going to go out and push like any other run. I mean, he's not a guy who lacks confidence. Let's put it that way. He's already won 3 events this year. He knows he's top qualifying a couple of times. He's a confident driver, so he's going to go out there and say, "I'll just do what I did in practice." However, this time do you think though maybe he'll go to his 90% run?
I
would imagine so. I mean, there's no point in pushing for a #1 spot if you're not even in the game. But he hasn't dealt with pressure like this. We haven't seen him under pressure like this all year, Eddie. So, we've talked a lot about Lee Scott in the Pro-Am class, and I think that's easy when he's dominated so much so far, especially in Ireland and the UK. But there is always moments in a season where they're the tough moments, and any champion or future champion or anyone who's trying to win a championship has to go through moments in a championship that weren't perfect for them. Remember, we've never seen a driver in the history of Irish drifting ever win all rounds, including when James Dean, won rounds, back to back to back. He still had 1 or 2 rounds a year where he struggled. That's the nature of the competition, and the competition nowadays, as opposed to when James was winning championships here, is far greater and far higher. And I think anyone making mistakes at this level, you're obviously going to be in big pressure. But again, if you're a champion or a championship contender, you're going to have to sit there and say, hey, my most important thing right now is that I get in the show, because losing all the points from this event, well, that brings a lot of guys back into play.
Absolutely, and of course, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being undefeated. And sitting on the line, he has everybody talking about him. Everybody wants a bit of Lee Scott at the moment. Everybody wants to know what he would do if he was competing in the pro class. And with that comes that added expectation to perform.
The element of there's nothing given in the sport. So essentially, if you say, it's a given that Lee Scott will get to the top 4 because he's done it 3 times in a row, that's when things start to happen. You give that Dwayne McKeever comes in here undefeated this year in Ireland and the UK, thinking, he's definitely the favourite, and of course he is. But anything in drifting isn't given until you get to at least the top 8, top 4, and you start feeling it. Anything up to there, anything can happen. Anyone can have a moment of madness. Anything can happen with a car. These are machines at the end of the day, Eddie, that can break at any given time. Every part you put in there, you've no idea if it's on its way out or it's going to last another 5 years. So for Dean Crozier there, as you can see, he's recovered from the track. He's still in the game. He's still in second, definitely safe. And we move on to Neil Dunn, sitting in 10th position with a 76.7 from his first run.
Yeah, final 4 drivers remaining in qualifying, and Neil Dunn 4th position in the championship. Can he improve on that first run? Needs to pull something out of the bag here. A little bit wide though through that first section of the course, and just not keeping it as tight as the judges would have wanted to see. But Neil Dunn, certainly, we touched on it earlier on, Dave. He's come back this year and just looks like a new man behind the wheel. Looks very confident. Done a lot of work on this car, of course, in the off-season.
Yeah, by any extent, it is a pro car. A little bit wide there. He's going to have trouble here getting out of the wall. Just dropping the wheel there, Eddie. Push it right to the extremes of this circuit, and very important that you do so. As I said, you're trying to improve from sort of a 76 mid-level score. If you want a big score here, you got to push that boundary, and he did a great job there of actually, you know, pushing right out to the walls. And with Neil, sometimes it's a feast or a famine. He's either top of the podium or he's in the gravel traps, and that's why we love watching him out there. He's unpredictable as he is. Awesome behind the wheel, and I think he, you know, it's a good run there. Those wheels off might dock him a couple of points, so judges will be watching out for that. Yeah, 68 leaves him in 10th position, but it's a comfortable position for him. He'll definitely be seeing battle action later on with that, as far as I'm aware. And we move on to another new star rising up, Lee McFadden. He's looked very good this year, coming straight from the IADC in the off season. He's been an exceptional driver to watch. Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about a man who's coming from the IADC and sits 3rd position in the championship after 2 rounds, and you know, phenomenal stuff, really. Certainly a driver to watch for the future as he fires through the first corner, Dave. Very impressive stuff. Look at the line that he carries. I mean, for a man who's so early in his drifting career to be pulling out the qualifying line like this is just phenomenal. Showing no signs of qualifying nerves, throws it nicely onto the wall, looking to better that 71 that he scored on the first run, and I'm impressed with this run so far, Dave.
Yeah, it's very tidy. Tidying up a lot of those areas he had on the first run and looking very, very good at there. A little hesitant towards the end of the track there, but it is quite an on and off throttle zone. And Lee McFadden doing a good job there. And it's amazing to see these new guys coming through every year. You're sort of 6 months ago, you're saying, I'm not too sure who this guy is. And all of a sudden, he's starting to become the guy everyone's talking about in the paddock. And it's amazing to see the sport turn, you know, zeros to heroes very, very quickly within 6 months. And let's see what Lee scores on his 2nd run. Incredible to see the grass turning yellow in Mondello. I don't think I've ever seen that much sun in the country before. It's like the Sahara Desert out here.
And just as that score drops in, a 79 and 8th position for Lee McFadden. Huge. Nice run. And huge for his championship hopes. But yeah, apparently, Dave, we won't even be able to wash cars for like the next month or so, as they're going to put a water ban up until the end of July.
Oh, the end of July?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's how warm it is in Ireland right now.
Super.
But you know what? We got some more important issues to take care of right now, and that is Ryan Caldwell taken to the circuit, gunning for top spot. 82 on his first run. What has the young gun got this time around? Fires through the first section nicely out to that 3rd zone.
Yeah, pretty perfect so far. He hooking up that outer line, clip 3, absolutely perfect. And look at this, he's very calculated here. He wants that top spot. He's going to have to be perfect and aim for those walls with the rear end. And that's not bad at all. Could be a little bit wider there, missing that outer zone a little bit. And it's actually tricky for the higher horsepower cars in the roundabout than anyone else. So, but other than that, this is a pretty faultless run. A couple of errors just coming out of the roundabout, but other than that, very nice line. He's going to be a very tough competitor to come up against in the battles later on.
Do you know what? Any other year, and Ryan Caldwell would be the talk of the town, okay?
Yep.
But he's almost in the shadows a little bit, just coming up quietly in the background, and I think he could be a big contender here this weekend.
Yeah, and again, he'll be looking straight on here now. An 85 for Ryan Caldwell puts him into 3rd position. And that leaves us with 1 driver remaining in the qualifying session before we head to pro practice, and it is probably the most nervous moment in a very short but very, very celebrated career of Lee Scott, who has now got all the pressure on his shoulders. He doesn't qualify here. He may as well definitely throw away his chance at 20,000 tomorrow, but also he throws away a lot of championship points all on his shoulders now. Got to make this work.
Yeah, but it's looking perfect so far, Dave. Perfect line through the first section. He just makes a transition back nicely into that link engine management zone. Just hooking up the trap quite perfectly as he throws it onto the wall now. Big run here from Lee Scott. Inch perfect the whole way around. Tags that 2nd wall as well. Sends out the smoke signal. Fires it out to the final wall in the circuit. Nice and tight on that inner front end clipping zone. And smooth through the finish.
I don't know, whatever about getting a score on the board, Eddie, I think he might be looking at the top score there. That is an incredible run under pressure. To go out there with absolutely no margin for error, you could not score a 0 or it's all over. To go out there with that kind of a run and put himself into the mix, not only I would imagine it's top 32, but well up the order.
Yeah, will he go top? No, he doesn't go top, but he does go 3rd with an 87.7. Lee Scott is in the game, just what everybody was hoping for, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be impressed with this kid every time. That was the first big pressure moment he had in the sport, and he just nailed it. Incredible stuff, Eddie. What a heated qualifying session. We have our 32 drivers decided. We will move to battles later today. I'm looking forward to see how it goes, and these are the guys that will be making it to the show.
Yes, your qualifying standings in first position, and a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, with an 89.3 is Shay Rogers. Dean Crozier in second position, third position for Lee Scott, fourth for Ryan Caldwell, fifth for Andy Keys, sixth Tomas Falvey, seventh Graham Holden, eighth Ryan Morton, ninth Lee McFadden, 10th Jordan Boyce, 11th position for Harry Kerr, Neil Dunn in 12th, 13th Alan O'Neill, 14th Francis O'Shea, 15th Paul Kennedy, 16th David Garvey, 17th Tommy O'Neill, 18th Dylan Garvey, 19th for Paulius Judicious, 20th for John O'Hare, 21st position for Nigel Moody, 22nd position for Shane Reedy, 23rd position for Robin Neeson, 24th Jack Shield, 25th Tom Murphy, 26th for Sean Watt, 27th Phil Duffy, 28th Keith Bart O'Shea, 29th for Martin Griffin, 30th position for Shane Mackin, and your final two drivers qualifying, 31st for Trevor McInerney, 32nd for Ross Kenny, and that rounds out your qualifying standings. All those drivers will be back, as will we, at 2:30 for top 32. Join us online or in attendance here at Mondello Park for what is going to be an absolute cracker of an event. It is all building up to that €20,000 tomorrow, a brand new layout, and this one is set up perfectly for some battle actions as well, Dave.
I'm looking forward to it. We got battle action here in the Pro-Ams in the beautiful sunshine in Mondello, and then we've also got an amazing lineup for tomorrow for the pros. So if you can make it to Mondello Park tomorrow, start making those plans now. If not, we're going to be here live in a couple of hours with the practice. From me and Eddie, we'll be back calling you through all of the top 32 battles later today. Who's going to get to the top four? Who's going to get a shot at that 20 grand? Well, we're about to find out. From us in the tower, we'll see you guys soon.
We are Funk Motorsport, your heat management specialists. Based in the UK, we strive for perfection, developing thermal products trusted by professional race teams and drivers worldwide. Performance, protection, reliability.
Want to save money on car parts and accessories? Then visit mixgarage.com, Ireland's #1 retailer for all things motoring. Simply enter your reg, and away you go. Repair parts, car care and tools, travel accessories and service parts. All the great brands at great prices. Mixgarage.com. Shop online now.
Mobil 1 is one oil, and unlike any other, it combines multiple lubricant properties into one oil. It transforms at the molecular level. In low temperatures, it pumps up quickly to lubricate. In high temperatures, it provides outstanding protection. In harsh conditions, it adapts continuously, keeping your engine running like new. Mobil 1 lets you drive further than ever before. That's your engine evolved. Mobil 1. Energy lives here.
There's a reason that half the paddock, if not more here, runs Samco hose, and that's that nobody wants to be let down by a split water hose or a split boost hose. And with Samco, there's nothing to worry about.
With using these hoses, we get the reliability, they never burst, we can just rely on them, and that's all we need.
Half of the grid are running Samco hoses in their cars, and there's a reason for that. They're the best in the business.
I'm so happy to be running Samco hoses now, because in the past we have run other manufacturers' hoses and we have had the intercooler pipes collapsing, which obviously when you're under massive pressure on track, you have to be fully supportive and reliant on your hoses.
So a lot of people ask us over the years, you know, what hoses you run. Personally, I can't think of anything better than Samco. They do what they say on the tin, they work, they don't come loose, they don't fail on you, they don't pop. You can't beat Samco.
I've chosen to use VP racing fuel since I was a teenager racing motocross, which was 21 years ago now.
I've been using VP racing fuel for years, basically ever since I built my first race car, and you want to get that consistent fuel, it was VP through and through.
Absolutely,
right from the beginning.
That's the brand. Yeah, I've been using VP probably since I was 10 years old racing dirt bikes. There's so many different VP racing fuels to choose from. One of the best go-tos is definitely C16.
So we use C16 in our Formula Drift cars.
I run C16 in all my cars outside of this one here. The two race cars here at the track, we run the C85.
And my supercharged Coyote-powered Mustang that's over in Europe, we use MS109.
And a Ferrari car, I actually run MS109.
VP has been making racing fuel for 43 years. They're the official fuel of multiple top series globally. No matter where we are in the world, no matter what fuel we need, it's always consistent. It's always perfect and exactly what we're expecting and our tuners expecting. They support myself, my Drift Alliance bros, and for that, I'm extremely thankful. Keep making amazing fuels, and we'll keep out there having fun.